Well, hello there, and thank you for tuning in to the Shameless Sex Podcast. I'm Amy, sex educator, somatic sex and relationship coach, and sex shop owner.
And I'm April, VP of an international high-end pleasure product company and boss queen sex toy mogul. We're best friends who make our own rules about who we are as sexual beings.
With everything from how to be a badass in the bedroom, to pussy praising, to top tips for bringing your relationship to the next level, we have something just for you.
So sit back, relax,
and enjoy the show. Don't forget to head on over to our website at shamelesssex.com for more. And for 15% off of some of our favorite sex toys, use coupon code SHAMELESSPP in all caps at purepleasureshop.com. Hello, everyone. Amy here with the Shameless Sex Podcast. April is not here today. She's actually just getting back from Amsterdam and Germany. So I have a wonderful guest here who is also another podcaster, not from the realm of sexuality, but they also like to kind of push the envelope a little bit in their own way. And I've been on their podcast before. And also when we were getting our podcast started, we got a lot of tips and inspiration from this wonderful person. So I love to introduce Kyle Thiermann of the Kyle Thiermann Show. If you want to learn more about his podcast, how do we find you? Google Kyle Thiermann in iTunes.
Clearly, I'm the most humble. I just use my name wherever I go.
Just keep it simple.
Exactly.
The Kyle Thiermann Show.
It's actually not very simple because my last name is difficult to spell.
How do you spell it?
Thiermann. Pronounced Thiermann.
Where does that come from?
Comes from Germany, but my grandfather was born out of wedlock in Scotland, apparently to a very wealthy Scottish family. But because it was out of wedlock, it was a secret birth. So they...
Shame.
Yeah, they flew him to Hong Kong.
What?
To have the secret birth, and he was raised by a nanny for the first few years of his life and doesn't have any memory of his real parents. And then he was adopted by an American family with the German last name Thiermann.
Wow. So there's like a whole lost lineage there.
A whole lost lineage, exactly.
Be it based on shame.
Exactly.
Like what shame does. Yeah. Wow. So this is Kyle Thiermann, everyone.
Yeah, so that's me. I've always
of shame.
I've always wanted to go back to Scotland, though.
Oh, you should.
There's something so... I feel like at different points in our lives, we become more curious about our heritage. We become more curious
I'm in
about...
it right now. Okay, so I'm a quarter Jewish, and some of the maiden names, my mom's side would be Merowitz, but I am now Amy Baldwin, and I have never really been interested in the family lineage. It's very interesting because I'm sixth generation Santa Cruzian. Like my family, the Baldwins were the original surveyors of Santa Cruz. We have all this family history, and I've been kind of fascinated with it, but not that much. But now I'm like, wow, that's really awesome. But the Merowitz side, lately, I've been really interested in Holocaust literature, specifically from people are like, why are you reading Anne Frank? What's wrong with you? Trying to become depressed? But it's because I also don't know a lot. I know my family is, they're Holocaust survivors and people who didn't survive as well. And I'm finding myself like really curious about it. I've never had this desire to like go to Auschwitz or any of that stuff. And like lately I'm like, maybe.
Well, have you heard any of the science on gene trauma?
No. Oh, like,
so
like
there's
ancestral trauma?
Ancestral trauma.
Yeah, like we hold it in our DNA, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, explain a little bit about that because that would be new for a lot of people. Or maybe just the Cliff Notes thing of what you know.
I mean, the Cliff Notes of it is that trauma from ancestors can live in our DNA through generations.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert on it, but
I have.
It's fascinating to think about.
Yeah. So it's not just like I heard this about my relative. It's like, no, it's actually in me.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I was so my grandfather, his name's Ian Thiermann, recently passed away at 98 years old. And at his memorial, there were a lot of people who stood up and told stories about him, and many of the stories I had never heard. And one of the big themes in his life was that he was a hardcore environmentalist, and how much he loved nature, and how much
look at you,
how much he loved being in the outdoors, and how much he just always was willing to talk about uncomfortable shit and be the only voice in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting there thinking, I'm so fucking unoriginal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it can be this really kind of freeing moment to have a respect and a reverence for our lineage. I think that we tend to want to think of ourselves as our own person. We want to think of ourselves as the newest, the greatest, and
I'm special. Yeah.
Right. And there's also a lot of pressure in our society to make a name for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that a lot of times more wisdom can be drawn by remembering lessons that were maybe once forgotten than looking for the newest, best, shiniest way to make a name for ourselves.
Yeah, I like that. So this is kind of a little bit of what we were talking about earlier, the legacy piece. Everyone wants to kind of leave a legacy and be remembered, which is really interesting to me. So I've been, I'm an educator, and yesterday I went to Cabrillo College. And this is where I first took my first human sexuality class when I was 18. So I'm now 32. Took my first human sexuality class. The professor was so terrible and made the topic so dry, and yet I loved every second of it. And that's what inspired me to continue pursuing this path. And it just has always evolved. And I was invited back this last week to go and present at the human sexuality class, different instructor now, and to present on sex, relationships, communication breakdowns. And I went in there last week and this week, and it was really exciting for me to kind of go back. And I was like, wow, this is where it all started. And then so I presented to these people without even really going in there with I had kind of some notes. I'm going to talk this, and this, but didn't really go over it. And my delivery was, it felt like it was coming from such this deeper cultivated wisdom that was really authentic to me, that felt like I was speaking from just such a powerful and confident place. And I was thinking about I was like, wow, I'm really refined in my skill, because I've been doing this for 10 years now. And then I was looking into that too of, what is that feeling to me? Is what is exciting me about that? Am I feeling powerful? Is it my ego that's me feeling powerful, and that I think that these people will always forever remember me as being super awesome Amy who blew their minds. But really, and so I think that is one approach that people want, especially people who are teachers or have a microphone like this. Plenty of people are getting high off feeling awesome. For me though, as I check in with myself, it really was the fact that these, I had at least 4 or 5 people come up to me after, and they were like, that was amazing. And it wasn't feeding my ego. It was me saying their lives have been changed. And there was that. So I don't know. I mean, I think that there's definitely still some ego in there, and there's still some I don't know. To me, it doesn't feel too much of a legacy thing. It feels more like my purpose is to teach and to help people, and that's what feeds me, and it feels so exciting.
Right. Well, it's nuance, and I've learned a ton about that, given that I've been doing a lot of environmental film for a number of years.
Yeah, but will you tell us who you are and what you do?
Sure. I do a lot of micro-documentaries on environmental and ocean issues around the world. For the last 2 years, I worked as a correspondent for Discovery Digital Network, where I'd go around the world and cover usually ocean-based environmental issues. For the 8 years prior to that, I had a YouTube series called Surfing for Change that was a series based on looking at coastal issues through the lens of surfing. So did a doc on the trash epidemic in Bali that got 1 million views. Did a story on the protests happening in Hawaii on the GMO issues over there, plastic pollution, working conditions in Sri Lanka. A lot of the thing that I love so much about what I do is that I have the freedom to move laterally from issue to issue and subject to subject. And I get to attain these little micro degrees in a lot of varied issues in life. So I very much care about a number of different issues, and I've more than being passionate about filmmaking, I think I've always been a lot more interested in just having the freedom to move laterally and just present my own take on things. So that's what I do. And my reasons for doing it, since I started when I was 18, have changed a lot because I'm a different person now. I'm 27 now. And I was thinking about this the other day because when I was 18, I got a lot of external praise for doing what I was doing. The first story that I did kind of blew up. It was on the impact that where you put your money in banks has on the environment, because when you put your money into a multinational bank, it's more likely going to be lent out and used to fund a project that you might not necessarily want to support yourself, right? So, for example, Bank of America is one of the larger funders of coal power worldwide. So if you have your money in B of A, it's being lent out to fund projects that you're not that psyched on.
I want to tell you on that note, you're the one that inspired me to go local, just so you know.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so if you have your money in a local bank and credit union, it helps. It helps. So I got all this praise when I was 18 for this. And I could almost see myself retrospectively needing that external praise more and more the more I got it, and also needing to feel like I was fitting this identity of the youth activist, which isn't dissimilar from the hot girl who gets a ton of praise at a certain age and then tries to stay that age for the next number of years. And it was actually through my experiences with psychedelics that it helped me get out of my own way, because what you were talking about, the nuance between showing up and being like, I'm Amy and this is me and know that I'm awesome. The difference between that and serving as a conduit of information, the information is moving through you and to someone else, and you almost disappear in that moment. It's not about you anymore. It's about the message.
Yeah, it's like I'm not channeling, but yeah, it's like a conduit for the message. Yeah.
And the people who I see, who I really respect, who have attained a ton of success and haven't become weird, are the ones who see themselves more as conduits. And I vividly remember the moment that this happened. I was in Big Sur, on top of the world on one of those beautiful hills, and I was looking out over the Pacific Ocean on a sunny afternoon, and all of the wildflowers were going off. They were purple and blue and yellow, and I took a tab of LSD, and I thought that exact thought, that no one is actually going to remember who you are or what you do. And all you can really hope to be is a conduit. And you're never fully going to know the impact of what something that you said, that you're never going to know the impact of what you did. And that's okay. So it's more about getting out of your own way and then using that energy to propel you forward, rather than trying to hoard it in and keep it all for yourself and, have a podcast called the Kyle Thiermann Show or something. Know the name. Remember the name.
Never forget.
I'm someone. I'm also the youngest of 5. So
you really want to be remembered.
Yeah. Hear me.
He wants to feel really special, everyone.
Exactly.
Oh. I like that. I want to talk about psychedelics because it's interesting. April and we've never talked about psychedelics in our 22 episodes, and I'm someone, and maybe a little more than you are, but I know that you use psychedelics as medicine, as medicine for expansiveness, and you've done work with ayahuasca in arrhythmia down in Costa Rica, and you're talking about LSD, and I'm sure you've done other work, but and I'm someone too, and I don't know if I've talked about this on a podcast, probably. I definitely sit with psychedelics. I've definitely experienced psychedelics in a more of like a party atmosphere, but I'm talking about psychedelics as medicine for expansion and for deeper connection to the self and to other. And so I'm curious if you, in terms of like relationships and to yourself and how you connect with others, what psychedelics have done for you in that sense. Like you're talking about this, the legacy piece that you're talking about, that's really important wisdom. But what else have psychedelics done for you? In your growth and your lessons and your learning?
Gosh, they've helped me not take myself so seriously. They're just so, when used correctly, because I also I talk about psychedelics quite a bit on my own podcast and have the real experts come on, and I do take it seriously because they are powerful, and like any powerful substance experience, anything, you want to treat it with a respect and a reverence, right? If you're hiking into the Sierras in the wintertime, you want to make sure that you have a good jacket and a backpack and a compass, right? And that can be a really beautiful, really transformative experience, sometimes difficult, sometimes not so difficult, but to know what you're getting into is really important. So I always lead when I talk about psychedelics with knowing the mindset that you're going to go in with. Like, what do I just want to groove with my friends and hang in Big Sur and dance naked under the stars,
and be happy?
which is fucking great? Or do I want to come to terms with some deep trauma? Do I want insight? And various doses of psychedelics, just like anything, are going to give you a completely different experience. The thing that I like about psychedelics, as opposed to other drugs, which I don't really do, never done cocaine, never smoked a cigarette, is that they actually help me get to know myself better. It's not an experience where I'm trying to shut something out.
Yeah, not escaping or numbing
exactly. So in those experiences, yeah, it's the mindset that I want to go in with, and it's the setting that it's the place that I'm in, and I try and be conscious about those two factors. And I'll say I've blown it many times where I took some mushrooms and forgot about a dinner that I had to go to, and all of a sudden I'm.
Should I go?
I won't give too many details away on this one, but I was recently on a surf trip with some very high-profile professional surfers, and we all took psychedelics together and went surfing and had a great time. And we kind of miscalculated the time on like when the trip was going to start happening into when we had to go to this environmental dinner. It was like it was like a very serious, like they were the honored guests, and there was news there. We all
cameras? Oh my God.
And we all got to the dinner, and we're sitting there just like, okay, just don't laugh, just don't blow it, just don't crack up. And one of the newsmen came up to my friend who's a professional surfer and was like, "Oh, excuse me, sir, like, can I interview you for this story I'm doing?"
Did they crack?
And he and it was actually the first time that he had used psychedelics, and he was doing great. He was having a blast. And the guy asked him a question, and he just started talking, and I was just at dinner like, oh my god, I blew it. Like, I totally miscalculated the time on when we were.
Were you the one that like the instigator of all of it?
Oh, I was definitely the instigator of all of it.
All on you.
Well, it was totally, and I was like, you want your friend to have a good experience,
the first time.
right? And then we leave dinner, and it all goes well, and my friend came up to me and said, so the news reporter asked me the question. And I don't know what I said, but I just started talking, and I started talking, and I started talking. And then I finished, and the news reporter said, oh my gosh, I have goosebumps. That was beautiful.
I'm not surprised. I'm totally not surprised.
Right. So again, the dose determines the experience, right? A lot of people in Silicon Valley use psychedelics, in very small
They're
doses,
microdosing,
for problem solving, for mood enhancement. And then you can take larger doses depending on...
like go do deep work.
Go do deep work, exactly.
Well, I like what you were also saying about intention, that's important as well. So, sitting down and getting clear on what your intention is for the experience, and intention goes a long way. I've had some really big lessons on intention in the last year or two, and the ways that I can incorporate that into my life, whether it's sitting down with psychedelics or even just I'm going to have some sexy playtime with my partner, and what's our intention here? Is our intention to slow down and really, really connect, and really with a lot of deep presence? Are we feeling like we want to just kind of lose ourselves in it? What is the intention here? But yeah, with psychedelics, I feel like exactly what you're saying, that they have a lot to offer, and that you can kind of play with it in that sense. And I think for a lot of our listeners here, if you're not aware of psychedelics, a lot of times people just think of it as just drugs and people taking acid and tripping balls at a Grateful Dead concert, and it totally can be that. And they're really great tools. They're teachers. So this is the other distinction too. A lot of times in the psychedelic realm, and people think of it as their therapists. They're not there to heal your childhood trauma. They're there to show you where it is and what your work is. Ayahuasca does that, and LSD can do that, and psilocybin mushrooms can totally do that. Give us the messages and the guidance on where we need to go. Here's your work. Here's your stuff, and it can be really powerful. And for me, I prefer to sit with ayahuasca in a ceremonial setting quarterly, kind of once every 3 to 4 months. It feels like a really important maintenance and connection to the earth, and then also to myself, to the deeper part of myself, my deeper wisdom. And lately, for some reason, I've been sitting once a month. I'm like, these ceremonies just keep coming my way, and I'm really starting to see. I'm actually really, really enjoying that. I'm really enjoying the work that I come out there with. I go in there, I do this work, I get these lessons. And what they're doing right now is they are just bringing me into this deeper connection with myself that I lose in the chaos of the everyday world. And in turn, when I have a deeper connection with myself, then I can have a deeper connection with my partner and my friends and my family. Because when I'm in the chaos of all of the insanity that's happening in the world, I'm on an airplane 4 to 5 times a month sometimes. And so it's in that life, it's really easy to just get lost in the doing of life. And when I'm lost in the doing, it's hard for me to connect into myself and into my heart, or I can, but I have to really sit and spend a lot of time to get there. But if I'm just living from that space, I'm not connected to myself. And in turn, even the conversations, the connection I have with my partner and my loved ones, that reflects in there. And so, these medicines are really showing me where my work is, as well as helping me to come back to the original default setting of, this is the real me, here I am, and now I can go outward and experience the real me with my partner or with my family or my friends. And they're like, oh, there you are. You have so much more energy. You're so much more alive. This is literally, I just sat did an all weekend ceremony this last weekend, and was talking to my partner on the phone, and he was like you just are filled with life, compared to before. You were just so vibrant. Everything to me right now is almost more new and exciting, and my creative juices are on fire, and I'm so driven. And this isn't because I'm in some drug-induced experience. It's because it helped me to get clarity, to clear through some bullshit. And it's funny because the work I do with people in my somatic sex and relationship coaching, I'm kind of doing that, I like what Chris Ryan says. There's a shame exorcist, right? So we're doing this where we're trying to help people to get rid of shame through our word, through this work. And the medicines are doing the same thing. They're shedding the layers, this, that unveiling, the unraveling of all this stuff that's getting in your way was never yours. It's created from shame and trauma and stories, and letting you feel and exist from who you really are. And I love that. Like, I'm so happy to be on this path. And it's.
Yeah, and there's so many cultural taboos that when you start to look at them and examine them a little further, break apart very quickly. Mm-hmm. And to not experience what can be a really beautiful aspect of life based out of fear or based out of not wanting to come off a certain way is a miss. And that's the reason why I'm willing to talk about psychedelics openly.
Well, and you also don't give a fuck what anyone thinks about
I mean, on some levels, and on other levels, like I don't have fuck you money.
No.
Right? Like I understand that talking about this kind of stuff could exile me from certain circles, which is totally worth it to me.
Exactly.
Because I don't want to hang out with those people anyway. But I think that it's important to talk about these subjects with nuance. And to your point about connecting more deeply with yourself and how these substances can help that is, I feel that 100%. Mm-hmm. I feel like when I take psychedelics in the right setting and have the right mindset, a version of myself shows up for myself and says, "Hi, welcome home." Mm-hmm. And that's fucking beautiful.
Yeah, it's like, there you are.
There you are.
Yeah.
Hi.
You've always been here, but you just were hiding.
You just forgot, or you were too rushed.
Yeah.
Or that little moment of, the sun shining through the trees that you didn't take time
you
for.
don't normally notice or you don't hold with reverence because there's so much in the way, so much the chaos.
Yes.
And all of a sudden you're like, I've seen this sunset before, I've seen that sun shining, but now I can really see it.
Right. Mm-hmm. I sat in an ayahuasca ceremony last year, and I had no intention of bringing this subject up while I was in it, but all of a sudden I was on this journey and I was plunged underwater in the ocean. Mm. And I've been a surfer my whole life. I've been a water person my whole life. It's very entangled with my career and my identity, and also a genuine passion for the sport. I surf big waves professionally. That's another kind of vertical in my life. Mm-hmm. And I've realized that my ego and how good I was at surfing was getting very much entangled with the joy of it all. Mm. And all of a sudden I noticed myself starting to veer away even from the sport of surfing because it had become so entangled in this, are you good enough? You're not good enough. There are so many people who are better than you. You're not good enough to be a pro surfer. What are you even doing?
So like the
thoughts,
the worthiness.
Just subconscious worthiness playing in the back of my mind. And on the experience, I was plunged into the ocean and was met with this message of, you just need to go fucking enjoy the ocean. Mm-hmm. And that feeling, all right, I can say it now and it probably comes off as pedestrian, but having that feeling hit me, and I wouldn't even actually say hit me. It was more of like a gentle, like the best friend that you have just tapping you on the shoulder and being like, dude, just go enjoy it. Mm-hmm. And the next day I went out surfing and I found that I was noticing the experience with more joy and more happiness than I had in a very long time. So if we're talking about different versions of ourselves showing up, that's the version of myself that I want to show up all the time. And that doesn't mean that I don't then blow it and then get pissed off again and forget those lessons. And that's where the work comes in, right? It's the time when you see the ripple of water and you slow down to really notice it, or the sun shining through the trees, and it's a little reminder for you to exhale and show up. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's the key piece there too is there's like the integration piece, and for me, I've gone to so many ceremonies where the next day or 2 days later I had to get on an airplane and go to like Las Vegas, which if you've heard me talk about on this podcast before, I have a theory, and there's a little invisible box, and in that box there are things that take your soul away, and it is Safeway shopping centers and grocery stores that are similar to that, cocaine, and Las Vegas.
Things that take your soul.
They take your soul away. Every time you go into those places or you consume those things, you lose a little bit of your soul in that moment.
Safeway.
Yeah, Safeways. I walk in there and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die.
The fluorescent lights.
The lights, yeah. And all the like preservatives and artificial coloring and the food zombies. Oh my God, it's terrifying. Especially after Burning Man. Going to Safeway after Burning Man, I do not recommend it.
Yeah.
Not
and that, I mean, and that's part of using these substances in a way that we can derive the greatest learnings from.
Yeah.
And most of the time we don't, right? Most of the time we use psychedelics and then the next day we're back on our phones or we're back in the meetings, and it can be kind of traumatic sometimes.
Yeah. It's like,
like your spirit is like, whoa, dude, hey, yo, we were just here.
Why are you abandoning me?
Yeah, exactly. Come back, come back. So I think that whether or not we even choose to use psychedelics, it's more about scheduling the time before and after to integrate as much as possible.
Yep.
Imagine if you had something going on in your life, relationship issue, work issue, and you decided that you were just going to take 3 days of disconnecting.
And just focus on that.
Regardless of psychedelics. I think that psychedelics can help get you to that mountaintop where you get the 360-degree view of how beautiful life can be.
But you can do it without.
But
too.
you can also do it without. And I've had fantastic experiences without. So I think, though, the time that we spend and the seriousness with which we choose to move into the experiences is more important than the psychedelics themselves.
Exactly.
Because
we
all know people who have taken a ton of psychedelics and haven't changed one bit except for the way that they talk.
Yeah.
Right? Their speak
now I'm speaking all spiritual.
Yeah, their speak changes, but their actions don't.
More spiritual than you, bro.
Yeah, no more fucking spiritual than you.
So fucking spiritual.
So fucking enlightened.
That's a big thing for me. As I was saying, I've come out of ceremonies and gone right to Las Vegas. This last one, amazingly, my life is like so much more cleared up right now. So I came out and I've had this full week. For me, it's a big deal to have a whole week at home in Santa Cruz, and it's a busy week. I'm still doing a lot, but I'm doing everything with intention. And I've left that ceremony and wrote down some specific agreements and commitments to myself, and I'm carrying those through this week, holding them in reverence and doing a lot of self-care, and then just in a lot of nourishment, like really holding space for the lessons to settle in. Whereas in the past, I haven't done that. And it kind of like, dissipates and the work gets lost. So yeah, and I like what you said too. Like as we talk about psychedelics and what they can do for helping us to kind of tap into our true selves, it's kind of, to me, it seems like the fast lane version of it, right? Like we can do it on our own, and or the way I describe my work with people when I do sex and relationship coaching, helping people to work through shame. We can do it in those sessions or do it on our own, but the psychedelics are kind of like the turbo speed version of those, of getting you in there, and they do so many other things too. But I think that they really just help to like quickly rip away the layers. And whereas when we do it on our own, sometimes, especially depending on how thick those layers are, the work can take a long time.
Right. And if there wasn't the dogma around psychedelics,
yeah,
I wouldn't be talking about them with such passion.
Yeah.
If everyone said, going on hikes can kill you, going on hikes is poison for your brain, going on hikes will turn you into a loser, I'd be like, fuck no, hikes are awesome. Yeah, and some people have died on hikes, but guess what? People have also died in their cars on the way to go to the hikes.
More
right?
people.
So I would be talking about hikes or anything with the same level of passion, right? And I think that that's what's important, right? It's going after the subjects that are taboos in our culture right now and examining them.
Yep. Yeah. I like making our own rules and pushing the envelope a little. Like we live in a world where with so much conditioning on who people should be, as whatever it is, who they should, what they should grow up and be, who they should be in relationship, who they should, how they should portray them, how they should dress, all these things. And I see so many people that are life is really dull for them, and they don't know why. They don't understand why. Like, why is life just kind of like meh? And I've had moments of like that for myself too. I'm like, everything seems like the dimmer's been turned down a little bit. But a lot of people live a life entirely like that, you know, with that essence or that undertone forever. And I feel like a lot of that really is that they haven't taken the time to tap into who am I really, and like what is my real purpose? Like how do I really want to express myself? How do I really want to experience life? Not these ideas and rules that, you know, society gave us and how we should be.
Yeah, and trying shit out.
Yeah. You gotta push yourself.
Trying things out.
Yeah.
One of the great joys of the work that I get to do is that I get to experiment a lot. Mm-hmm. I've basically lived my life in 2-month-long experiments, whether it's I'm making a documentary or writing a story. So I'm a writer also. And I'll use this as an example as something that has just brightened my day substantially. I'm writing a story right now for a local magazine called Santa Cruz Waves on foil surfing.
I don't know what that is.
So foil surfing is an airplane wing. Picture a full airplane, the shape of an airplane, attached to the bottom of a surfboard.
Whoa.
Right? And you start paddling for a wave, and what it does is it lifts you out of the water.
Whoa.
You might have seen footage of Laird Hamilton doing this, where it looks like he's gliding along the top of the water about 3 feet above the water. Because
like Jesus?
Like Jesus. He's gliding. It's so fun. It's so fun because you lose all resistance in the water as you're surfing along, and all you have is this airplane that's using water pressure to keep you up. And it's really hard. And I've been surfing for a very long time, and to find something that I can't do is very addicting and very frustrating. And I need to learn how to do it because I'm writing this article, right? So there's a little bit of like, all right, Kyle, figure this out. So I've been foil surfing almost every day for the last week, and I'm starting to kind of figure it out a little bit. And my days have been 20% better as a result of trying this new skill that I suck at and getting good at it.
Yeah.
So I think that to segue into what your forte is, which is sex, relationships, you don't need to own a new identity by being like, what's my purpose? What am I doing now? You can try it out.
Yeah.
You can try it out in a 2-week experiment and see, does this work for me? Does this not work for me? And as a result, you get so much more intel than having never tried it or working through all of the things that could potentially go wrong, and then you never end up even doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of pressure, I think, for people to know what their purpose is now. Like, I have to have the answer now, but there's so much beauty in the discovery phase, and it could be a lifelong discovery phase. You could have a purpose 1 minute, and a year later, it's a whole different purpose, and you dip your toes in and figure out what feels good.
Yeah, well, let's hope it does. I mean, let's hope that you're growing and changing and evolving as a person.
Well, and if you're not, that's the dull life. That's
yes.
the, like, you know, if anyone, I feel like if anyone's feeling like their life is a little dull and dim, like the dimmer's been turned on, like look at how you're living your life and
find shit you suck at and get better at it.
Try to push yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was on your podcast. I did talk about the comfort stretch panic, the circles. Yes. And I don't know if I've done that on ours, but probably. Yes. You got to go in the stretch zone.
Live in that yellow zone.
Live in that yellow zone, everyone. So if you imagine, I probably have talked about it before, but if you imagine circles. So we have a circle. There's a circle. In the middle circle, it's comfort. And this is where we spend most of our day to day. So this is like, I wake up, I drink my coffee, I go to work, I come home, I cook my dinner, I have sex with my partner, I go to sleep, you know, whatever. You're normal every day. This feels safe. This feels comfortable. Our patterns are everyday living. And then outside of that circle, think of another circle outside of it. And in that outside circle, it's stretch. This is the stretch zone where it's a little uncomfortable. It's not like painful, but it's a little uncomfortable. And this is where we stretch ourselves, where we make choices or do things that push us. So like Kyle going and experiencing foil surfing, where it's edgy because like, oh, this is new, but I need to learn this. I need to push myself and do something new and enticing and exciting. And And this is where the learning and the growth comes in. This is where that dimmer that's been turned down, where you're stuck in comfort, in dullness, now all of a sudden gets turned up because you're learning a new skill or you're having these new connections, but it feels a little like edgy because it's new and a little uncomfortable. But this is where the growth comes in. And then outside of that one, just the whole abyss outside the stretch zone is what we would call panic. This is where if you go there, which we all do all the time on accident, get the fuck out of there. This is where we're in panic and we're like, oh my God. Like, this is like you doing the foil thing and you
all
start
right, look
drowning.
at me foiling. I need to show you this
showing
video.
me a video.
Okay, look, I'm in the one in the back.
Okay.
Look, I'm getting going. I'm just riding an open ocean swell there. Look, yep. And I just get going. See how I'm above the water?
Oh, wow.
I'm like 2 feet above the water.
He's flying. He's essentially flying, everyone.
I'm flying.
Where do people look at that? It's on your Instagram.
Yeah.
Everyone, Kyle Thiermann's Instagram. Go watch him flying.
It's physics.
Yeah, and but it's exhilarating when you go and put yourself into the stretch zone. And like for me, some of the most fulfilling feelings, like an example would be when I was learning how to do this podcast. You know, I'm the one that edits the podcast. So everyone, if I fuck up, I'm really sorry, but I'm not perfect. But learning all these things, how to edit and how to, put the music in there, all these things. In the initial phase, I'm in the stretch. I'm like, oh, this is so hard because it's something new. And I'm like having to kind of push myself and I kind of procrastinate a little, like, maybe I'll learn it tomorrow. But then once you start to learn it, it feels so good. I just got a new skill. Like I feel alive. That's what life is about. Like life to me is learning and teaching, learning and teaching, learning and teaching forever. Like that is to me and me. Everyone else can maybe have their own theory.
Damn good cup of coffee in between.
Yeah. I'm learning, coffee, teach. Coffee, learn, teach. I don't know. Yeah.
Some poops it's too.
Boobs?
Good poops.
Oh, I think so. Yeah, some good poops and boobs. And this is the meaning of life, everyone, brought to you by Kyle Thiermann.
Squatty potties.
Squatty potties. The ones like the hippie ones where you put your feet up?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you use those?
Well, our mutual friend Chris Ryan has a squatty potty and he sold me on it.
He did?
And all of a sudden, so here's the deal, everyone. We weren't supposed to poop while sitting down.
I know. What's
if
up?
you think about pooping in nature, you're squatting down, you're engaging your abdominal muscles, and that's how you get all the shit out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
One of the big reasons that women need to pee all the time is because not all of their urine comes out
when they're sitting
down. Mm-hmm. So the squatty potty allows you to engage those muscles and give yourself a high five after you poop.
You feel super awesome.
But then, so Chris Ryan, author of Sex at Dawn, has a squatty potty. Mm. And it is the perfect example to describe him, right?
Squatty potty.
Well, because he is questioning one system that has been widely adopted.
Yeah, that's what he does.
And saying, that's stupid.
Yeah.
There's a better way to do this. This
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense. Yeah. And we should just and he uses that mindset to dissect something as trivial as a squatty potty all the way out into human sexuality and political systems. Yep. But it's the mindset with which we approach the problem. It's not so much the specific problem. How we approach something is how we approach everything.
Yeah. Look, we're just doing it this way because of some, it's just some Western practice. Like someone decided that this was a cleaner, more sanitary, cleaner, more sanitary. We don't have to, deal with the mess. Just flush it away. We don't know where it goes, but someone else will deal with it.
Now everyone has stomach problems because they don't get all their poop out.
I know. And they wonder why. It's just the stuff that's
and then there's the shame.
Poop shame.
Poop shame.
Yeah.
Fart shame.
Oh, yeah. Lots of shame. Girls don't fart, I heard.
Yeah, I heard.
It's bullshit, Kyle. Yeah. It's bullshit. So much shame around it.
I heard of one once, 1,000 years ago.
It's a mystical woman.
A mystical woman. She let one slip. There were many novels.
Then I never heard it
there were many novels written about her. The fables.
It caused earthquakes that changed the world. We're getting a little carried away. That's fun. Chris Ryan and I, we were talking about when I went on his podcast. I want him to come on this one at some point too. But we were talking about, this is a segue here from poop. We weren't talking about, although maybe we did talk about poop on his podcast. Yeah, we did. But we were specifically talking about collaborating on working on some pieces on how to teach men on how to live as their authentic selves as sexual beings, in terms of how they show up for relationships, for themselves, to kind of say, like, fuck you to the socially constructed ideas of what masculinity should be. And again, like, it's that, the shame exorcism, getting rid of the layers of like who, or I can't. So here, an example, Chris Ryan wrote Sex at Dawn, so it's a lot about non-monogamy, but an example there will be, like, I can't tell my partner that I have a desire, interest, or I'm even just attracted to other people, because they might not be cool with that, so I'm going to lie about it. That thing, they're not living in their authentic selves because they're fearful that they'll lose someone and that this isn't the way it should be. And I'm super excited about that. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I'm really excited if we do collaborate on that. And this is like something I'm always excited about. And I always think of you, Kyle, as like an evolved being in your overall being outside of sex and relationships, but of someone who makes their own rules and who has come a long way and probably hasn't always been perfect. But
I just thought of a great bumper sticker.
What is it?
It's a photo of a Squatty potty, and below it says "evolved being."
Oh my God. You should. Oh my God. You should make them. You should just talk to the Squatty Potty people, because would you put it on your car? Would you do it?
Oh yeah. They could be the presenting sponsor of my podcast. I do the greatest rants.
That is so good. I like that. Squatty Potty, evolved being. Good job. Good at moment being a level one listener.
Squatty Potty below says, question everything.
And then a picture of Chris Ryan's face next to it. Yeah. There you go.
Like Chris Ryan, like contemplating, like one of like the stoic contemplatives on a Squatty Potty, and says question with everything.
Like, his chin on his hand, resting. Yeah. Well, we'll get that to you, Chris, and see if we can sign your life away for that.
God, I'm an idiot.
No, I like it. I think it's brilliant and ridiculous in a brilliant way. That was a moment brought to a Kyle being a level 1 listener, everyone. So anyways, but I wanted to say that, first of all, I admire you. And I want to know if you have any tips or advice to the world on, and let's talk specifically about sexuality and relationships. How do you think that men can evolve to be more authentic to who they are as sexual beings or in the relationships? Like, what has worked for you to stop being, I don't know if you ever were, would you ever think you were kind of like, I mean, you're part of the surf community. There's plenty of people there that live a life of, can I use the word broy?
That's very broy.
I'm going to make a judgment on broiness.
Sure.
And broiness is kind of fitting into a specific conformity of kind of like the way the pack is running.
Well, it's fucking as a sport.
There you go. So the difference between fucking as a sport as opposed to having sex or relationships for connection and for meaning and.
Yeah, I was absolutely in that world.
Mm-hmm.
I vividly remember being in high school and having sex with a really pretty girl, and in the moment of having sex thinking, I'm going to tell all my friends about this.
Yeah, I'm going to get so many high fives.
I'm going to get so many high fives.
Fuck yeah, bro.
And that's the culture. That's the cultural norm that still persists.
Yeah,
and
even outside of the surf community.
Yeah,
I mean, it's everywhere.
I mean, it's just super prevalent. And it's a way that men bond, actually. Not in a deep way. It's because it's not like I'm going to bond with you, friend, in a moment that you really need help or you really need my support. It's a bonding. It's a social bonding that's easy to do. Mm-hmm. It's like superficial. It's like singling the kid out in the schoolyard and having everyone make fun of them, and the group is bonding
over making fun of this
one kid, right? In the same way, fucking for sport isn't so much about that experience. It's about the little ego inflator that you get after the fact.
The status, everyone be like, yeah, bro, that's so awesome. Way to nail that chick.
But it's, it's something that I'm still continuing to work through. And look, all of the experiences that we have in life, everyone who we meet, everyone who we talk to, everyone who we have sex with, everything we do is really just to self-actualize ourselves more, right? Like we have this experience, whether it's go on a hike or have sex, and we hopefully learn a little bit more about ourselves, right? And those yellow zones that you're talking about are so valuable because they're kind of fast tracks to learning about ourselves more. Well, how do I act? How do I show up in this situation or that situation? How do I show up when I'm not on autopilot, right? So one thing that's been really helpful for me to just reflect on a lot of the ways that I acted and still continue to act in sometimes is keeping a journal. First thing in the morning, before I turn my phone on, I will write down some thoughts on a page, things that I'm afraid of, things that I'm ashamed of, things that I hope to do and accomplish, just anything, getting it out there in a way that isn't going to be seen by anyone else, so I don't need to filter how it's coming off, is really helpful for me, and has been. Because I think that part of what can lead to us living lives where we're not learning about ourselves is when we're living on distraction. And a lot of that can be from being on our phones all the time, being on social media all the time. It actually fractures our ability to think deeply about any one thing. In the opposite way, I think that reading books, listening to podcasts,
Kyle Thiermann Show,
hanging spending time with people who are positive influences on us and push us to be deeper thinkers naturally will lead us to thinking about our own lives in a more deep way. So I find that my anxiety levels go down substantially when I do keep a journal, and I kind of vacillate between being really on it and spending some time to meditate and having a journal. And I find that when I win the morning, the rest of the day is a lot more easy.
Tim Ferriss,
everyone. Tim Ferriss, he's got some wisdom.
Yeah, win that morning.
He's a little anal retentive, but he's got some wisdom in there.
Yep, doing some things.
I think that's on a pragmatic level, waking up and before I turn my phone on, where I'm still in that state of like just coming out of the dream world and writing down thoughts for 5 minutes, has helped me substantially to deepen my own thinking around a range of subjects, and one of them being relationships and sexuality. And hanging with you, honestly.
Woo, I'm a good influence and a bad influence.
Yeah, I listen to your podcast, and I have conversations with you, and I think that being someone who is you're someone who's seen various themes play out in relationships and people's lives in a way where you can kind of serve as a moor in storms. Because when you're in the storm, it's very difficult to know how to go north.
Oh yeah, it gets confusing in there.
And when I've been in those difficult times, having a group of friends, you being one of them, who can hear the storm as as verbal vomit coming out and kind of provide a compass.
Yeah, well, because I'm not, or myself, or your other friends that were there to support you, or the way I show up for clients, or the way I show up for my friends or family when we're triggered or we're going through a thing. we're emotionally invested. And so like, for me, I'm not emotionally invested in, to a certain degree I can be, because I want the best for everyone. And I'm not triggered. So it's easy to help people to sort through all those.
Right. But you're looking at it through a sober lens.
Totally.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's super important.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, it's almost journalistic in the way,
Yeah.
in the way that you're able to look at a couple different sides of an issue and still be removed from it to tell a more honest story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's important work. And I think it's just that brings it. We live in this culture that everything's very isolated, right? It's like when I experience my hardships, I need to sort them out on my own is kind of the mentality there, because we have these very isolated lives, our own individual houses and our own individual land and the nuclear family, when we know most people aren't living in community and, going through pain in community and raising children in community and going through, all that stuff. But to me, that's like the original way. We just aren't living that for the most part. But when people are going through hard stuff, like you're having a heartbreak, and the tendency is to isolate, like push yourself to step outside of that, because having with people that will love you in your vulnerability, but having people who can look at it through that lens and show up for you and support you, could be a total game changer in your way of thinking and also your way of moving through the hardships too. But it's just not the default for a lot of people. And then it brings me to like the piece about it's hard for people to ask for help. There's the gender kind of issue or stigma around men asking for help. Hey, in like talking about you and your surf community, do you feel like you can go up to a lot of those men and be like, dude, I'm having some heavy relationship stuff. Can I talk to you? Like, is there a lot of safety there in that community? There's just a lot of this idea, and you don't even have to answer that if you don't want to. But
sure, yeah. I'm very grateful to say that I have a solid core group of friends.
Good. Yeah.
And I have a lot of different friends who I show up for in different ways, and a lot of friends who show up for me in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
I have good friends who I love to go surfing with, but I might not open up to them about relationship.
Totally.
I have friends who I love talking about philosophical issues with.
Yeah.
But those might not be the ones who I open up to about the relationship. And then I have friends who show up in different ways, right? And that's one thing that I think has been probably one of the best influences on my life is just surrounding myself with good people.
Yeah. Makes a big difference. We're sponges. We absorb.
Makes a huge difference.
We absorb the energy that we surround ourselves with. And that's, I think, with kind of what you were saying a couple minutes ago, too, is that I thought about when you were saying that was also having really great teachers.
Yeah.
People to inspire you. Like when we just did this recent podcast with Alika, and he was talking about masculinity and men and how they can become better lovers, but also how they can show up stronger in their masculine to support the feminine, or show up in their own feminine, and just kind of moving through the polarities, not just specifically speaking about gender, but more of like navigating those polarities. I had men reaching out to me that were like, I want to learn from that guy, and I appreciated that, to hear people that were inspired by that and wanting because it is like having those teachers and those influences can really help to guide us and open us up. If you see a teacher that we were like, I love what they're doing, either reading their work or going to their talks or taking their classes or asking them like, can I be your little? Will you be my sensei?
Yeah,
be a game changer.
It sure can. Mm-hmm. I think another, because we're kind of on the bro masculine, like the way we relate. One thing that's saved me a lot of grief and also caused me a lot of grief before I knew how to do it was to be super upfront about intentions moving into any kind of relationship, sexually specifically, because
you're talking about with partners or
with partners.
partners?
With partner. Like I think that a lot of pain is caused because people will start hooking up and they won't be clear about their
Exactly.
intentions moving forward because they're afraid that either they won't get laid if they're honest about what they really want, or it'll be painful. And it's way easier to just kick that can down the road a few months. And I've seen it on both sides, where guys feel like their time was just wasted because they wanted a relationship, and maybe the woman knew that she didn't want a relationship but was still kind of just pushing that conversation off to the side, and vice versa. And that sucks because life is so short. And that's, I think, part of like my just like I sometimes feel like I move too fast with how much I want to learn and how much information I want to ingest and how much I want to do and see and feel and experience. And the reason for that, though, is because I can see my life retrospectively. I can actually look at myself from the outside, and I see how quickly this is all going to be over. And part of what has tuned that frequency for me is having a podcast and sitting down with people who are older than me, who I respect, and having someone like Jim Fadiman on, who's in his 70s, and he's one of the top researchers on psychedelic medicines and safe therapeutic ways to use psychedelics. And he still has the youthful exuberance of a 24-year-old, but he's an old man now. And I can see myself in him.
Little 27-year-old who can,
yeah, and it's strange, and it's nuanced, and it's highly psychedelic to think about time in that way. So as much as I can experiment and do and feel and then write down those learnings and try and apply those learnings as quickly as possible, the happier I'm going to be.
Yeah. Yep.
I think a part of it is that I can get very neurotic if I'm not doing that. Like if I'm not on purpose, like I've had times in my life where I felt like I was off. Like I was doing a campaign once for a beer company where they sponsored a bunch of different episodes of this adventure series that I was doing. And I was stoked. I thought it was going to be a really fun time. And every cut that I gave to the production company of us going on these great adventures, and they were silly, they were fun, they were very me. Every cut I gave to the company, the sponsor came in and gutted any personality out of it. And they wanted it to be this clear, clean, vanilla, middle of the road. We don't want to offend anyone with anything that could be potentially, turn people off. And I was on these calls with this company. I felt like I was getting fucking radiated. Like I felt like my soul was getting
getting... Well, it goes into the box of taking your soul away. We'll put it in a Safeway in Vegas.
Yeah. But like the feeling of having anything authentic that I was bringing to the table be ripped away, and all of a sudden it was just Kyle, the young surfer who can maybe sell beer, was all that they wanted. And none of the weird, wacky shit that I'm actually into. Yeah. It felt like I was being radiated in a very real way. So whenever that has happened in my life, I very quickly try and change directions or reflect on why it is that I'm feeling that way.
So what do you feel like people... So there's a lot of people who... live to, like, they have a job and they don't like their job and they're doing it because they have kids and they have to pay the bills. And for those people, when I talk to those people and tell them, what I do, and that, like, I have this belief that, if you really put your heart and mind to it, like, you can do anything and tap into your deeper fulfilling purpose.
Sounds like some hippie talk to me.
Hippie talk, bro. But like, how do you, like, what would you say to those people? if you met that person who's like, I hate my job, I need to make money so that I can support my family, I have 3 kids, there's some other things I'm really interested in, but I don't know how I can make money off of it, and I'm kind of miserable, what would you say?
I would say to try a 2-week experiment. I don't think that it's intelligent advice to say quit your job and start wearing a bandana and move to an alternative
do like
community.
A Jerry Maguire.
Yeah, because I mean that's still a major anxiety in my life is
money.
Make money. Yeah, I still need to piece it together, and I have a few different jobs that I do, and we all got to make money. But I think that that it's about making little shifts.
Yeah.
And you can do that when you set dates on like, okay, I'm gonna try and learn this skill, like learn this new hobby or
while still keeping my day job.
While also keeping my day job.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not that you hate your day job. Maybe it's just the way in which you move through your day in your day job.
Yeah, maybe you just need the other outside things.
Totally. Maybe if you picked up foil surfing, you'd love your day job.
Start your day foil surfing, then go to your day job. Life is good.
Yeah. So I think that's part of it. Is that we don't. I think that having a job that is your passion is double-edged. Because part of it is that, wow, I get to do my passion all day long. The other part of it is, wow, I don't love my passion nearly as much.
It could ruin
anymore.
your passion.
It could totally ruin your passion. Same with what I was talking about doing ayahuasca and seeing how closely surfing in the ocean had become part of my job and how convoluted that experience was becoming. So, yeah, I think that it goes back to you don't need to think big about changing your life. There can be little shifts and just finding new hobbies all the time.
I mean, I would say on that note, because there is a lot of pressure, like we should all love our job and our work or whatever, and maybe that's not an option for everyone, but I think for the most part, if you just look at the bigger picture, like, do you more so love or enjoy your life than not? And if you don't, how can you alter your life? You know, maybe you keep your job that you don't love because you need to make money, but what else can you add in so that you can live this fulfilling life? Like you said, life is short and there's so many things. And same with relationships too. You know, is your relationship feeling less good than good? Okay, either leave the relationship, or what can you do to make it feel more good than less good? And that's what matters. It isn't necessarily like, I mean, it's the broader picture, and it's the feeling that you're left with I mean, it's your existence, your essence. It's life force energy.
And Big Sur's right around the corner.
But yeah, there you go.
Bring some mushrooms down there.
There you go. Just go do your psychedelics.
Trip out on the blue ocean.
Comes back to it, and then you go, and then you're like, I'm gonna quit my job, and I'm gonna go move to Africa and change the world. And I'd be like, right on.
Oh, there's a good parody on Burning Man that was done. Have you ever seen?
I've seen a number, but yeah.
Well, there's one that Simon Rex does on it, where he comes back from Burning Man. He goes, "Hey boss, I just got back from Burning Man. Fuck you, I quit."
I think
and he goes and he tries to reconnect with all of his burner friends, and they all have their regular jobs and they don't want to hang with him anymore, or he hangs with them and realizes that they're total losers and that he doesn't want to hang with them. At the end of the day, he goes, "But boss, about what I said earlier."
Burning Man's not working for me anymore.
Yeah.
Well, take it slow, everyone. Don't make any big decisions right away. All right, we're gonna wrap this up, Kyle, with just like 1 or 2 sentence answers to a couple questions. To summarize, what do you do? Name some things. Go.
I podcast. I surf. I do environmental documentaries. I travel. I give high fives. I poop on Squatty Potties. I think about stupid bumper sticker names.
And why do you do what you do? What's the reason?
Why do I do what I do?
What's the bumper sticker that says why you do what you do?
Trying to get laid.
That's not true.
I don't know, and I don't think about it that hard because it's too easy to come up with a formulaic answer. I just I try and I like looking at subjects that I think are fascinating and maybe systems that I think are stupid and dissecting those. And I really like to learn, so I try and put myself in as many positions as possible where I can learn as much as possible. And I'm still figuring it out though. Mm-hmm. Honestly, like I really don't, I don't know, and that's okay. Oh. So I try and live my life as in 1 day chunks and 2 week chunks. And I try and make smaller circles around goals that I have and things that I want to achieve. Because otherwise it gets too big and I feel overwhelmed. And all of a sudden I feel like I'm not good enough and like I'm never going to get there. And I become paralyzed by fear. Mm. So I try and say, hey, I'm going to learn how to foil surf in the next 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And that keeps me happy.
So your bumper stickers would be, I don't know, and that's okay.
Long fucking bumper sticker.
His bumper sticker is, I don't know, and that's okay. And something about living the moment and question everything.
With a Squatty potty right at the bottom of it.
With Chris Ryan pondering. Okay, lastly, how can people find you?
My website is kyle.surf, not kyle.surf.com, just kyle.surf. It's where you can see all of my micro-documentaries, podcasts. I'm also on Instagram, Kyle_T-Man.
T-Man, not Thiermann. T-Man.
T-Man.
Oh, just T-Man.
Well, Thiermann's a very difficult name to spell. And, you know, it's a German name. Yes. That
and you moved to Hong Kong. We know the whole story. If you want to hear the story again, go to the beginning of the podcast.
The circle of life.
He's also a professional singer. We'll add that. Well, thank you so much, Kyle, for coming on Shameless Sex, talking shamelessly about psychedelics and pooping and relationships and just what drives you and how you like to push the envelope and question everything. And
let's wrap this up. I just drank a big cup of Verve coffee and I gotta poop.
Okay. Yeah, run, Kyle. Kyle's running in the bathroom. And as April would say, she's not here today. We love you, April. But as April would say, everyone, see you next Tuesday as we release our podcast every Tuesday. And we love your reviews. So if you want to write a review for us, we would love that. It helps us out. And if you are a subscriber of us already, we love you too. And to write a review, you are going to actually have to kind of log out and search for us again in iTunes, and then you can write a review. And as we always say, we like your sex questions, so you can email us at shamelesssexpodcast@gmail.com. Ciao for now. Don't forget to head on over to our website at shamelesssex.com for more. And for 15% off of some of our favorite sex toys, use coupon code SHAMELESSPP in all caps at purepleasureshop.com.